Why did the Boston Celtics end up basically abandoning Celtics basketball in the second half against OKC? And do they just have a problem with physical defenses? We'll talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back if I say it is stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Jrue to KP, tap in daily. Primetime dapping D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finish. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts when they play on the weekend, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts on the audio side. The video side, it's on YouTube, the Locked On Celtics YouTube page. Comment section is always popping with a lot of good discussion, so join in there. I'm John Karalis. If you're new to the show, that's my name there on the screen. I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years or so, doing it right now as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. You can read all of my written work there. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can get $5, can bet $5 that you get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Later on, we're going to get into the discussion of physical defenses, right? Do the Celtics just have problems when they play just a bullying physical type of defense? But a couple of things left over from the loss to OKC, and we're going to talk about it with Tom Westerholm. What is up, Tammy Bull?
It's me. What's up?
It's you. It's a Tom.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah.
We gotta have some sort of like banter, a little repartee for people to skip over. You know, what's the point of having the timestamps?
Like, what are we even doing now that we don't come up with rap names anymore? Like this.
I completely like run out of inane banter for people to skip, thus rendering the timestamps just pointless. There's no point. People just all right. Well, anyway, let's just.
If we spend about another 10 seconds bemoaning not having any banter, we'll get to about the point in the pod
to say
that we did
3 minutes.
Or boom, there we go.
Okay, so the Oklahoma City game, Celtics lost that one. I have on here lost to OKC leftovers. Talked a lot about the game last night, but what was your biggest takeaway?
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway I had was like that game was very clearly like a proving ground for the Thunder. I think, like huge moment for them. I think like, you know, you can, we've seen this over the years with the Celtics too, but like you get to like, you know, you get a team that's that young and that talented, but still kind of unproven. And there's games like that just kind of matter a lot to them. And they won it. Like that's a genuine contender. I do think that the idea that like they're gonna like dominate, we just saw the best team in the NBA, like that feels a little premature to me. I get the excitement. I mean, look, I'm not saying that they're not the best team in the NBA, like maybe, but I do think it's a little premature to start declaring that. Like their defense is great, right? Mm-hmm. Like no full stop, no whatever. It's not hold the Celtics to 27 points in the second half, great. It's not hold the Celtics to 19% 3-point shooting, great. It's like it's great, but like the Celtics also missed a lot of makeable shots and bemoaned correctly their lack of spacing and all this stuff. So I think what we saw was the preview of what would be a really excellent finals if it came together. We saw how great, again, full stop, absolutely no qualifiers whatsoever, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. That guy, I mean, we've seen it all year, but to see it against the team that you cover all the time is like, wow, that guy's picking on Jrue Holiday. What is going on? This is amazing. So I think we saw a lot of how great OKC is and not necessarily like a representative of like, okay, this is how a finals game, how kind of your average Celtics Thunder finals game would go. But I mean, heavyweight game, right? Like, I mean, amazing that thing was on NBA TV, that like,
I know
people with League Pass who don't live in the Boston area could watch it on League Pass. Like that should have been an ABC, all out media blitz for advertising type game. Like, you want to know what's wrong with the NBA's ratings? Hey, here's something like, you're not promoting the best regular, the best, one of the best regular season showdowns of the year. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that is true. Like, that's something that should have been heavily promoted.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting discussion for another time, because I don't see, when's the last time the NBA had a real money advertising campaign? Remember, like, I love this game, and it's fantastic. I still remember NBA. It's fantastic.
I mean, how great it's like, this is really showing my age, but how great were those like Kanye it's amazing commercials like back in like 2010? Those were insane.
There's I don't know. There's no like real strong marketing push. I don't think it's working. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, regardless, interesting that you said the defense isn't hold the Celtics to whatever it was, 20% shooting. The Celtics are shooting 36.7% on threes this year. They are the absolute middle of the pack after last season shooting 38.8%. So their shooting is down 2 full percentage points. We are 36 games into the season. The sample size isn't just small anymore.
No.
And 2%, considering the volume of threes, I mean, look.
That's like 50, 60, 70 points when you consider the volume of threes.
Listen, it's 1,806 3-pointers. I'm going to do some quick math here. Times 2%. Nope, that's not right at all. What's 2% of 1,806? Wow. I'm going to keep
that
all
would
of
be
this in.
36 3-pointers, correct?
36 3-pointers.
Yeah.
So they have missed out on
over 100 points.
108 points.
Yeah.
This season. So that's not an insignificant amount. 108 points divided by 108 divided by 35. It's three points a game. So a couple of these tight games. I mean, it's basically an extra 3 per game. So like, all right. So is that a big deal? You make one more 3 and everything gets better. Maybe it's as simple as that. That was a lot of numbers and a lot of me stammering to be like, is there a concern here? Are they just not a good 3-point shooting? They're an average 3-point shooter. What I say, 36.7%. League average is just about 36%. So they're basically an average shooting team that's just pumping out volume.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen Sam Hauser slump. We've seen Derrick White go through a slump. We've seen some guys. I mean, I think that the biggest thing that we're seeing is Jrue Holiday not shoot 60% from the corners, right? Like that's been, I think, a big one. And I think you would take the corner 3-point shooting and the slumps that we've seen this year, and I think that accounts for a lot of it. And honestly, I mean, you're like, is that something that should be concerning? I mean, maybe a little bit, right? Like, I think that the good news for the Celtics is they still have a ton of really good players, but like, the threes were the thing that made it almost, the threes were the thing that made everybody go like, man, this is unfair. The Celtics are too good. Where it was like the really dominant version of the Celtics that we've seen. A lot of that was related to them just like, like shooting teams right out of the building. And I think it's interesting, right? Because some of that, we've seen that in previous years, right? Joe Mazzulla's first season, they started out so hot. And I think a lot of that was because Sam Hauser came off the bench and made like 5 3-pointers a game. And I was like, he should be the number 2 pick. And then, maybe that wasn't quite right. But counterpoint, at that time, I don't know. And like, this year we saw them come out of the gate absolutely scorching everyone. And hey, who was coming off the bench and hitting threes? Peyton Pritchard was just like, averaging, 20 a game on 6 for 6 3-point shooting. Like he was just hitting everything. So, I mean, I think if there's a concern, it's that there is going to be an amount of shooting variance that happens when you're such a high volume team. And there's also, again, you're not getting that like 60% shot that somehow held up throughout the entire regular season from Jrue Holiday last year. Like you're not getting that anymore. And that is like, I don't know. I mean, that mattered last year for sure. That's what made everything like you couldn't build out to shooters. You had to be there present at all times, which then made everything else so much more wide open. I mean, I think that was defensively, that made it so much harder to guard them. So, yeah.
Well, it brings us to, I'm going to come back. I'm going to read some of these percentages off, and it brings us to last night and why the Celtics abandoned what I consider to be Celtics basketball. We'll come back and we'll talk about that. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. From upsets, game-winning drives, you got it all at the NFL playoffs, and the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel because right now, you, the new customer, can bet $5 and automatically, boom, you get $200 in bonus bets. Guarantees. Doesn't matter if you win or lose, you get the $200 in bonus bets no matter what. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Go check out the website. Download the app. You can get everything you need. Jayson Tatum's points, Jaylen Brown's assists. You can bet on it all over at FanDuel.com. Make sure you're using the tools that they have available so you can just keep your budget. Set your limits. If you have a disposable income, that should be your limit, whatever it is at that week or weekend or for the month. Just keep it, within those limits and have some fun. Gamble responsibly over at FanDuel.com. Join today. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets. It's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Make your second listen the Locked On NBA podcast. I'm here on Locked On Celtics. Then I go to Locked On NBA on Fridays. So you get a couple of listens there. I've got the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast with Jake Madison of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. And then there's an afternoon show, a debate style show on Locked On NBA as well. So you get 2 podcasts on that feed when you subscribe. All right, let's get back to the conversation here. Everybody talks about 3-point shooting, and I don't think 3-point shooting is necessarily an issue as far as the quality of shots. Like I didn't look at that game, Tom, and say, and a lot of people get it. I get it with the 3-pointers. I get it. I am tired of every time they lose, people going, oh, well, it's a 3-point shooting. Like, I mean, is it? No, they only hit like so many. Okay, sometimes you miss. Sometimes you miss. Are they going to have every rough shooting night? Is it going to be like, no, you got to do something else? Like, I think what they did in that game was abandon the things that have worked for them historically. And okay, they were cold, but I highlighted it on Boston Sports Journal. I've been tweeting it out. Drives where there's an open guy in the corner and you just have to give it to that guy. Either if you're going to drive and go up against 3 people, you better finish it. Like I know it's Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum and they're super confident, but you cannot miss. Like I hate to say it this way, but this is the unfair nature of the NBA. Like, all right, buddy, if you're going to not make the right play because you're Jaylen Brown or because you're Jayson Tatum, then you better finish that play. Like, that's okay. If you're going to tell me, hey, I'm JT, I'm JB. Like, all right, then be JB and JT and dunk it. Just dunk it on somebody. If you're not gonna, then just pass it and get the ball back. You know what I mean? So that.
Well, and it goes to the mid-range shot argument too, right? Because the mid-range shot argument was always like, don't take those unless you're a superstar. If you're a superstar, you're allowed to take those. If you're a superstar, yeah, you're allowed to make the quote unquote wrong play sometimes because you are that good. But the thing that makes a superstar is that they make that play work for them.
Make those shots.
You got to do it. You got to make it. Yeah,
that's it. And like that's the end of the story, right? You can talk about Kobe Bryant and all of that stuff, but we've got like all of these highlights of him making all of these shots. It's like he had that reputation. Like he missed a lot of them too, but like you just have to in these situations finish the play, or because you're on the Boston Celtics, Jrue Holiday's in the corner, Derrick White's in the corner. I don't care if they've missed however many shots. Like, again, remember the Indiana Pacers series? It was game 4 closing out. Derrick White had been ice cold. Jaylen drives, kicks it to Derrick in the corner. He hits the game ending, like the dagger. You never know when that next one is going to go in. Just because a guy has gone 0-4 whatever doesn't mean that next one is a guaranteed miss. You have to make the right play. And, to me, I'm just going down tangents now. If I'm standing in the corner and I'm wide open and my teammate doesn't give me the ball, that is a confidence, like that deteriorates the confidence, because you're like, man, he'd rather choose to take that shot when I'm open. Like, why didn't you pass the ball to me? You always pass the ball to me. It must be because I'm not hitting tonight. But when you get the ball in those situations, it's just like just regular basketball. You don't have time to think about that other stuff. So I had this argument on Twitter with somebody, and I stick with it. Like, if you're not dunking on somebody and finishing that play in a superstar manner, give it to your teammates. And if he shoots and he misses, he shoots and misses. That's Celtics basketball. You drive, you make the right read. Now, they shot like crap. Over the course of the season, Pritchard is at 42.5%. That's fine. Derrick White's at 39%. That's fine. Although it's not as good as it was last year, but whatever. Yeah. Sam Hauser, 37%. Sam Hauser couldn't hit a thing. He's like, are we concerned about him, his back, and all of that stuff like that?
I am. Yeah, I am. I think. Look, I mean, I'm a shooter. I've had back issues, and not only will it stick with you, that'll mess up your entire.
Yeah.
Like it's a brutal one to go. I'm a little concerned about it. I think.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious what's going on there. Jayson Tatum's at 37%. That's fine. Al Horford's at 36. That's fine for Al Horford. Jrue Holiday at 34.
I would say I think the Horford one, it's like, man, if that was a little higher, that would be helpful, because like when he's up at like the 38, 39 range, the shots that he takes open up so much for everybody else that it's like,
yeah,
those would be nice if you could get a few more of those to drop.
He's making 2 for 5.5.
Yeah.
One more, he's up over 50%. You know what I mean? Like, so if that is, I'm not so worried about that.
That's fair.
Holiday at 34 is like, Kristaps Porzingis, not a big enough sample size, but at 33, Jaylen Brown, 32.7 is a problem. Yeah. That's the problem. That's my biggest problem right now, that Jaylen Brown at 7 3-pointers a game is shooting less than 33%.
It's the volume that does it there. Yeah. Because you don't worry about it so much if most of what he's doing is driving and like either scoring around the rim or like getting like creating the passes that flash the rest of the way around. But yeah, that's at 7 when he's hoisting them like that. It's like
and it's
at least one more of those a game to drop.
You would like to see a little. Last year he took like 6, but the 2-point attempts are actually up a little bit from last year. He's just taking more shots.
He's taking a lot of shots.
Is what's happening in that. I don't know if that's because Porzingis has been out. Like, there's that other factor. Porzingis has been out, and you haven't been whole, and there's maybe a little bit more.
Tatum's missed a few more games this year too, so he's going to take more shots. Jaylen's going to take more shots. Yeah.
But in those games, he was like much more of a facilitator.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, he was very good about passing the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like bigger picture, like the Celtics are still not where they want to be overall. And we're talking about their offense like it's a problem. They're still scoring a ton of points. They just didn't last night, which is okay. It happens from time to time. But we're at like I said, 36 games. We're almost at the halfway point. So something's going to have to flip. Like, Jaylen's going to have to look at the shots that he's taking. And I know they want to keep the confidence up, but are some of those pull-ups maybe going to go away? is something going to go away just naturally because Porzingis is back? And is Al Horford going to get more shots against second units, and maybe hit a few more and get a couple more openings? Is that going to like level off? A lot of that stuff is probably going to, it may level off and get to where the Celtics needed to go in the second half of the season. But on nights where they've had more of these like, wow, they're not hitting a damn thing kind of nights this season than I remember last season. Do you remember this many cold shooting nights?
I don't remember. No, and it feels noteworthy, right? Because it's like I've seen a couple people be like, "Why is the entire team missing?" Like why is the entire isn't that strange? The entire team's missing, and the answer is no. That does happen because somebody might miss a few, and then somebody else is like, "All right, no worries, I got this," and then they miss one, and then it just kind of becomes this vibe, that you can kind of feel when you're on the floor of everybody being like, can somebody knock one down? Can we can we get something going? And nobody can because everybody's thinking about it too much. Like that happens for sure. It doesn't necessarily happen this much. I feel like at least with the Celtics, we haven't seen it this much. This is a little different. I think the shooting this year just feels a little different. Obviously you can look at the numbers, but the I don't know, the vibe is off. I don't know.
No, yeah. Well, all right. Let's come back with that because we've gone down so many different paths here. It's a
lot of leftovers.
A lot of leftovers. Well, let's keep eating our leftovers when we come back. Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Basketball season heating up, obviously. There's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite stars than with Prize Picks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prize Picks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think LeBron's going to drop 30 and maybe Luka's going to get more than 8 assists whenever he comes back. Prize Picks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. You can use Prize Picks and to do things like Jayson Tatum, more or less than 29 points. Anthony Edwards, more or less than 25 points. Those were options there when the Celtics played the Timberwolves. That's the kind of action that you're talking about here on Prize Picks. And with the flex play, got to make sure I get that right. With the flex play option, even if one of the picks doesn't hit, you can still double your money. Plus, once you hit, you can get that money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. It's honestly the best way to keep the game exciting. Now is the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly. When you play your first $5 lineup, that's it, $50 instantly when you use the code LOCKEDONNBA. No need to win. You just get that bonus guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Now go sign up for the Locked On Celtics Ultimate Newsletter. It's at LockedOnDaily.com. LockedOnDaily.com to get Celtics, NBA, and fantasy coverage all in your inbox Monday through Friday, plus links to some of the best Celtics coverage out there. It's over there at LockedOnDaily.com. Sign up for it. Get it to your inbox. Open it up. Read it. Have some fun with the Locked On Celtics Daily Newsletter. It's hard to remember where did we leave the Celtics.
The vibe is off.
The vibe is off. That's right.
The shooters.
But it wasn't off when they played the Rockets. It wasn't off when they played the Timberwolves. It's just when it's off, it's off. Is it the physical defense? We've seen them struggle. I joked around before, and it's one of those things where you look at the way OKC defended Boston. You're like, wow. First of all, flat out, wow, amazing. I'm watching that defensive performance, and I'm like, damn, I
don't have a hat on, but tip of the cap.
Yeah, tip of the cap, man. It was really great. And so you get that, like, man, do they just have problems with physical defenses? Is that an issue? And then the thought pops in your head, like, well, who doesn't have a problem with physical defense? Is there a team out there that's like, oh yeah, come on, just foul me every time? Yeah, hit me in the face, hit me harder. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
I'm going to start quoting that too.
Like that. Is that what this is? Like, no. So do the Celtics have a problem with physical defense? Yeah, it's more of a problem. Every team has a problem with physical defense. So did the Celtics have a problem against OKC? Yeah, because they defended the hell out of them. And like I said, this happens with the Celtics. It happened in the playoffs. You challenge the refs. You're going to blow the whistle every time? Or are we just going to set the tone here and be like, we're allowed to do some of this stuff? OKC was allowed to do some of that stuff. Jaylen Brown's complaining about it afterwards. Everybody, yes. Were there fouls? Yes, there were. When the Celtics are defending at their best, are there fouls? Yes, there are. So, like, that's how it works. You get to play physical. I love that style of play, but it does give you problems. And I think sometimes when you had the combination of getting, smacked around a little bit, three-pointers weren't falling, drives were working at the beginning of the game, but the Celtics, the Thunder switched everything in the second half. The Celtics, could have adjusted, should have adjusted, maybe tried something different, but they just said, you know what? Getting to the rim was working. We're just going to keep doing that. And I think they got away from Celtics basketball. I think part of it is because the physical defense was there and they just they wanted to say, here's the one thing I know that works. We're just going to try to do it and hopefully it works.
Yeah. And it was interesting in the first half because the getting to the rim was working and they were challenging and when the physical defense picked up that obviously threw them off. But like a big part of getting to the rim, what they were doing was playing really good Celtics basketball, a ton of attention to detail. Like you could see that everybody was kind of supposed to be where they were. The reason Jaylen was getting to the rim, or at least a big part of the reason Jaylen was getting to the rim so well was because there was the proper spacing, which was what, Mazzulla harped on after the game. Porzingis harped on after the game. Like everybody talked about, how bad the spacing was. And that, I think that the big difference in the first half was that attention to detail. And the problem in the second half was like, I think the Celtics needed to, for one thing, obviously they needed to make more threes. That would have solved, I think, a lot of this, but it would have created some more of the space that would have, I think things would have come together a little bit better. But I think that like in the second half, they needed to make adjustments. They needed to kind of continue playing Celtics basketball, which meant to me playing a slightly different way. Because in the first half, they were getting to the rim, but they were still playing Celtics basketball. They still had a ton of attention to detail. They were still doing a lot of good things. And then in the second half, they kind of got away from that, to your point.
So a couple things. Number one, if they made more threes, if they just made shots, different game, completely different game, right? So it's simple. And I went through, I said this on yesterday's podcast. It's on Boston Sports Journal right now. I went through every fourth quarter shot, like every one, all the threes, there was one three that I didn't like. And that was still kind of an open one because Jrue Holiday passed up a 2-on-1 opportunity to drive. Okay, fine. Also, third game in 4 nights. I hesitate to talk about it. Is a reason why I'm talking about it at the end of the podcast. I don't want to make it an excuse, but like at the end when OKC ratcheted up the physicality and the Celtics weren't getting to their spacing, they weren't fighting for their spacing. It's one of those like 3rd and 4 on the road.
Road games, 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. You cannot discount the fact that there was some probably just tired. And when I look at the film and I'm like, this guy should be here. Why is he just standing here? The defender is not looking at him, right? There's a Porzingis in the post, a defender, and Derrick White, and the defender's looking at Porzingis, and Derrick White isn't moving. The number one thing you do in that spot is like, relocate. You're a shooter, you see the back of his head. I'm just going to relocate to the corner. I'm going to relocate here. So when
I'm going to relocate 2 feet this way, and he's still going to get it. That's all I need. Yeah.
That's 100%. It. So when the defender turns around, he's not close. You give the guy, you give Porzingis in that situation a line of sight, like green shirt, boom, there you go. So that wasn't happening. Third game in 4 nights, maybe a little tired. They just didn't do those little finer points in the fourth quarter. Okay. Should they have? Yes. It's not an excuse. You still have to do it, but it's a little more understandable as to why they didn't. So, but then, there are legitimate like gripes. Like so OKC has gone from drop coverage to switch. All right. Well, let's switch. Let's get Porzingis on a switch. And get him in
pretty well against Case and Wallace every time they got that switch. Yeah.
So why not run some action where you're gonna get Porzingis in the post, get Tatum in the post, use Tatum as a screener and have him seal off. They do that plenty.
Yep.
And look, you can say, why not do that? You could have won the game. You could also say from Joe's perspective, why show all your cards? You don't want, like, let's see if we can do it this way. Let's see if we can do it this way. We're still trying to win, but like, we're not going to empty the playbook to beat OKC right now.
Right.
So you do have to hold back a little bit something, but still there are a lot of little tiny factors where this was a disappointing kind of finish to the game, but like, look, if this was the NBA finals, they would have had 2 days off before this game. And maybe they get to their spacing in the fourth quarter, and some of those drives actually work.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't shoot. Like, you don't have Jaylen, Jrue, Derrick, Peyton, and Sam Hauser all go scoreless in a half. When will that ever happen again? Like, how many times?
The next time they play the Thunder, they're screwed. They're going to get swept. That's.
So
no, I think you're right too. That like I think the feel of that game is worse for Celtics, like the Celtics and Celtics fans and everything too. Because like, I mean, OKC's like, like they get to the end of that game and they got a little extra, swag in their step. Like the crowd is going crazy and just like, and you're used to watching the Celtics puncture those crowds, right? Like you're used to watching them like overcome that, and they didn't. And I mean, look, like. There is something to the idea. Like, I think the Thunder, like I said at the beginning, I think that wins like that matter so much for teams like the Thunder. Like you did kind of, the Thunder now have that under their belt. They have that little extra, next time they play the Celtics, they might have that little extra, pep in their step. But yeah,
it is,
go ahead.
Go ahead. You go.
Mine was because I thought we were going to wrap up and I had like one extra tack on that I wanted to get in there. I want to read you a few quotes from the movie Fight Club and ask you which member of the Boston Celtics organization it sounds like said this. Okay.
The answer is always Joe Mazzulla.
On a large enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone will drop to 0.
Oh, that's Joe Mazzulla easily.
It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything.
That's Jaylen Brown.
Oh, interesting. I was referring these all to Joe Mazzulla, but yeah, that one. I could see Jaylen saying that for sure. Freedom. I could see Jaylen talking about that. I say never be complete. Stop being perfect. I say let's evolve. Let the chips fall where they may. Is clearly Joe Mazzulla again to me.
It could be Porzingis.
Dang, that's pretty good.
That could be Porzingis.
Okay. I got one more that's definitely Joe Mazzulla though. Okay. I don't want to die without any scars.
That's Joe.
That's clearly Joe.
That's Joe. Or Peyton Pritchard.
I think Peyton embodies that ethos.
Yeah, but Joe is one who would say
the words. Yeah.
Joe would say the words. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Joe Mazzulla, oddly Fight Club coded.
That's great because I was going to make some points and I totally forgot, which is great because I got to wrap up the show anyway. I was going to carry the show to like 38 minutes, but now I'm going to wrap it up at a normal time.
And then I would have carried it to 41 by doing a Fight Club bit. So
yeah, that's okay. We're gonna wrap up the show and continue talking for another 45 minutes, like we always do. Like people don't know this, and I know I'm teasing people. People are going to be like, anybody who's still listening at this point, when I stop recording, I really need to start recording again because Tom and I talk for like another hour. And it's invariably better than the podcast because we can say the things that we want to say that
Karalis starts cursing. So that's when.
Oh yeah. That's the other thing. So many people are like so happy. Like listen, it's one of my favorite things. One time I had a guy with his daughter at the TD Garden. He was like, we listen on the way to school. I'm like, that's so great. If I had the podcast that I wanted to do that interaction would never happen. I am like R-rated. It's like, what was his name from, I'm drawing a blank. The comedian from, I'm even drawing a blank on whatever. Doesn't matter. He was the father in one of those sitcoms, and like everybody's like, oh, he's such a nice guy, and like he was one of like the raunchiest comics. You
got me.
I don't know. I can see it. I can see it in my head. What was that? What was that sitcom that was based in San Francisco?
The only one I can think of is Silicon Valley, which I don't think is the one you're thinking of.
No, I don't know. Now I've completely lost. John Stamos, the one with John Stamos.
Okay.
No clue. Whatever. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm about to start swearing now. So thanks everybody for the take. Tom, thank you so much. I'm going to get rid of you now.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
I always appreciate you. And I appreciate you, the listener, the watcher. It's just painful. What a painful. This is the podcast equivalent of the last 2.5 minutes of the OKC game for the Celtics. That's what this last week, it was okay. You had a chance to finish strong and it completely fell apart. And I got nothing. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Always appreciate you. Make sure you're in that YouTube section, that comment section. If you're not subscribed, please do, and share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.